A global report that has been released by the Center of Epidemic Response and Innovation and over 100 scientists has found that climate change is increasing the rate of epidemics, most of which are at the doorstep of South Africa, it says. Yesterday, one of the themes of the COP28 conference dealt with how climate change was affecting the health sector. Newzroom Afrika's Ziyanda Ngcobo is at the summit in Dubai, and you're standing by to tell us more, Ziyanda Ngcobo.
That's right, due to a very interesting study being discussed yesterday around how in South Africa we are also one of the worst affected when it comes to epidemics. You'll know, when it rains, then you probably have issues such as mosquitoes, and then there's the spread of malaria, and then such epidemics continue to spread. But let me actually bring in a very familiar face that we always used to speak to during the COVID-19 pandemic, and you are part of that research that was done, Tulio de Oliveira, around this. Very critical to note that climate change is increasing the speed at which we get epidemics right at the doorstep of South Africa.
Yes, that's right. So we led a big team of researchers. We are talking about over 1,000 of the top scientists in the world to identify the main factors that's causing epidemics that are associated for climate change. And some of them, it's not surprising, as you mentioned, when gradual increase of temperature with higher mosquitoes and increase of malaria, dengue, chikungunya, virus that are transmitted also by mosquito, and other one for extreme events, such as big floods fueling large outbreaks of cholera, which at the moment in Africa and which came to South Africa, we are seeing the worst cholera epidemic or cholera pandemic that has ever in the history of Africa.
And let's talk about what recently happened with that cholera outbreak, because it would have seemed at the time that it just had to do with the issues surrounding water. But how does this directly link, and how is this a direct causal link from climate change?
Okay, the malaria variant, or the strain that caused the epidemic in South Africa, was identified to come originally from Pakistan. Why Pakistan? Because in 2022, Pakistan had the biggest floods of the history of Pakistan, and that fueled a big malaria epidemic. And that same strain was introduced to Malawi, which caused like over 60,000 cases and over 2,000 deaths. Very, very extreme epidemic in Malawi. And from Malawi, it seemed to have migrated both to Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. And just highlighting all these extreme events, one in Pakistan with a flood, another one in Malawi with floods, now is starting spreading a new strain of cholera, not only there, but in multiple African countries.
And so how do we mitigate against this? With globalization, we're a big village, essentially. There's no way of stopping this. We learned this lesson during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, so the report that we wrote with all the 100 scientists, it gives like 5 main action points. The first one is quick detection of outbreaks and make data transparent, which can be quite hard. You saw what's happened to us during the Omicron. The second one is increasing genomic surveillance. Why genomic surveillance? Because that's using the genome that you derive vaccines and therapeutics. The third one is protect vulnerable populations. The fourth one, be active where the epidemics are happening. This means normally in the global south. And the fifth one is to commit proper sustainable financing. And that's why we are here today, not only yesterday in the Health Day of the COP, but also today on the Financing Day, because we have to get resources to South Africa, to fight these epidemics amplified by climate change.
And when we talk about financing, how dire is the situation?
So the situation is not easy, but at least in South Africa we do have investment for our Department of Science and Innovation and the South Africa Medical Research Council. And what we do is work with global funders like the Rockefeller Foundation, the World Bank, to increase the amount of funding, especially international funding, entering into South Africa to do this crucial research. But quite important, the funding that we have, and it's also to do massive training program. And as part of this training, we have trained 400 African fellows in South Africa on how to respond to epidemics, so they can respond when arriving in the country. Because if you don't detect epidemics when the country of source, we know that viruses and bacteria and parasites and pathogens, they don't respect borders. They will come and they will come cause epidemics in South Africa.
Sounds like a lot of problems to contend with. You know, heat waves and floods increasing, mosquitoes increasing, then malaria and the spread. I mean, it's very interesting, but equally important. Again, a lot of emphasis here at COP28, financing. Earlier on, we heard from our very own Minister Barbara Creecy decrying the fact that the wealthier nations have not committed to the $100 billion that they had pledged towards climate change initiatives. And so these are issues that are going to continue to dominate discussions here at COP28 in Dubai.
Ziyanda Ngcobo coming to us from Dubai.